to another spooky, scary episode of We Only Look Thin. I am your spooky, scary host, Donald Weigel, and I have lost a spooky, scary amount of weight.
You are taking this Count Floyd bit really far.
Yeah, as far as it'll go. I can only do this once a year. I've lost a little over 100 pounds. And with me, as always, is the wonderful and talented
Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Ooh.
I just took your joke. I totally took his joke. Hi, this is Catherine Weigel of We Only Look Thin, and I have lost 150 pounds.
I thought you were Elvira, Mistress of the Dark for a second.
Maybe more. But yeah, hi. It is almost Halloween.
Almost. In this episode, we are going to weigh and measure everything we say. Ordinarily, we just say whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about stuff, but Halloween is almost upon us. It is almost the witching hour. And if it is not Halloween and you are listening to this and you presently have candy corn in your mouth, it is not Halloween candy. It's just candy.
It's just candy.
It is just candy. I know it is late in the month to tell you this, but whatever you're eating that's not on Halloween is just candy. It's like we say that at Easter as well, because people start eating Easter-shaped. Is Easter a shape?
Yes, Easter-shaped
Reese's
items.
Peanut Butter Cups.
Yes.
Halloween-shaped peanut butter cups. Don't be tempted by these.
If your candy is shaped like a holiday and it's not the holiday itself, you're just eating candy.
You're just eating candy. So watch out. So this week we are going to give you a tip of the week involving lowering your expectations of yourself.
Yes, and then we're going to do a deep dive into the ins and outs of weighing and measuring things.
We're mathing people. And then at the very end, we're going to give you a product of the week. And I will save, it's amazing, and it's a spoiler, so I'm just going to save it till the very end. Isn't that spooky?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what it's about.
You're building suspense.
I am. So Tao, tip of the week.
Tip of the week to ya.
So this may sound counterintuitive, but we are working on a habits challenge in our accountability group, and we have a habit goal each day. And my suggestion to you, wherever you are, is to reduce your goal to increase your goal.
Reduce your goal to increase your goal? How does that work?
There's got to be a better way. So in June, when our daughter got out of school, I was averaging about 19,000 steps a day. And then summer hit, and I was driving her to summer camp instead of walking her to school. So that was about 4,000 or 5,000 steps a day that she was robbing me of because she wasn't going to Sunday school.
Accusing her of stealing steps.
But I was averaging about 12,000 steps a day, and I wasn't even bothering trying to get to my 19,000 step goal because it was so far away. And then I decided that I would actually reduce my step goal to 15,000 steps a day.
Oh.
And guess what happened?
You stopped walking altogether.
I started exceeding 15,000 steps a day.
Oh.
Which is really strange.
That is surprising.
It is true. So I felt like my goal was so lofty and that I couldn't hit it. And it made me feel like a failure. So then I just stopped trying. So by reducing my target, it actually gave me more motivation to hit the target. So I was getting upwards of like 16,000 steps a day. So I know it's just a mental construct, but it actually really helped me push myself a little bit harder. So in reducing a goal, like say, for example, you have a goal of having 64 ounces of water a day. If you're never hitting that target, it feels like you're failing.
Yeah, and maybe, you don't hit it over and over again, and then you just think, oh, why should I even bother hitting, even half that?
So, if you reduce it to 32 ounces a day, or even 16 ounces a day, you might actually find yourself working harder to hit that target. And it has definitely helped me. I have kept my 15,000 step target even though she is back in school and she's not robbing me of my steps. And today I have 18,000 steps already.
Yeah.
And so,
heck yeah, you do.
So the idea is to cut yourself some slack and to not put pressure on yourself to hit a goal that you constantly keep missing. So by reducing the goal, you are more motivated to hit the goal. Now, Donald has kept his step goal at a lofty 20,000 steps a day.
Yeah, and I know there are days that I'm not going to hit that, but I've adjusted my mental attitude to, it's okay, and I still try and push myself to get as many steps as I can. And sometimes I surprise myself, and I manage to hit the goal anyway. But the idea is, if you're getting discouraged and you have a bit of the all or nothing attitude, if I'm not going to hit my goal, I might as well not try very hard. Then try maybe lowering your goal so that it pushes you to hit something.
Yeah. So whether we had one person in our group who had a goal of 15 minutes of activity and she wasn't hitting it, and I suggested she reduce it to 5 minutes, and it's better than nothing. It's about consistency. It's about getting out there. It's about committing and working your way up. So what goal do you have that might be unrealistic that you can reduce? Whether it's how many pounds a week you lose, or how much water you drink, or how much activity you get. What can you reduce to then maybe help yourself move on a little bit further? So that's all I have to say about that.
And that is your tip of the week.
Tip of the week to ya. And also watch the Halloween candy, people. Come on, we're getting into the dark days now. Let's just keep it classy. Keep it classy.
The dark days.
Don't start stealing candy from your kids or eating out of janky
Don't
demand
treat that they
bowls.
offer you tribute.
Well, if there's candy at work, keep it classy. Don't start stealing candy you don't even like. Like, somebody has a bowl of gummy bears out on the counter. Rob from accounting totally sneezed on that 20 minutes ago. You don't need that janky old candy. You don't need to be eating candy corn.
Rob from accounting.
No, you know him. So we're not giving you more tips. This is tip free.
Yeah.
We're free of tips. We've already given you your tip. Simmer down.
So we are going to do a deep dive into tracking your food and weighing and measuring. And this topic was suggested on our Facebook page. Find us on Facebook at We Only Look Thin. Search for that. By avid listener, I assume she's an avid listener, Charlotte.
Charlotte, again, that's the second shout out that Charlotte's gotten in a little while. So. And Charlotte just got married. Happy marriage.
Happy marriage,
She
Charlotte.
posted it on Facebook, so everybody knows now. So we're going to start with the tools that you will need in order to track.
You got your hammers, you got your power saws, you got your drills.
No, that's for tracking bears.
Oh.
We're not tracking bears. We're tracking calories. So we are going to ask you, and I think many of you know about these things, but some people have measuring cups and measuring spoons.
Yeah.
Do you know that heaping is not really an accurate measurement of peanut butter? Like, if you're like, ooh, a tablespoon, and you're like, whatever can fit on the tablespoon is fair game.
Whatever you stuff
if
on
you
there
Jenga,
that you can balance, like,
if you make
without
like
it
a cone,
off.
like a 2-foot tall cone.
like in I was gonna say If You Build It, They Will Come, but that's the wrong movie. I was thinking
that's
of
mashed potatoes.
Yeah, that's Mashed Potatoes, and it's actually not even that movie. It's Close Encounters.
Anyway, people know about measuring cups and measuring spoons, and the lesser known cousin, the scale, food scale, which we suggested as a product of the week.
Product of a week very recently.
It is much more accurate than your heaping eyeball of peanut butter. It is sobering how much I used to be able to fit on a tablespoon and thought it didn't count somehow because it fit on the tablespoon.
It didn't fall off the edge of the tablespoon, so it must be all right.
Get a food scale. You can get them at Bed Bath & Beyond with a 20% off coupon. I think we also have a link in our notes.
Show notes of a couple episodes ago. Maybe I'll put some more in the show notes of this one, some food scales that are good, and they're not that expensive.
Yeah, so get a food scale. We actually have 2 at home, and Donald has one at his office.
One at work, and I openly weigh things from time to time.
Openly. With unabashedly.
Yes, as opposed to a secret weigher.
So actual hard tools that you will need at home or at work are measuring cups, measuring spoons, and a scale. It is a small price to pay. You also need, you probably have a smartphone, you need an app maybe to actually do the tracking. So there are a number of great apps that you can use to track your calories. Donald also suggested a pen and paper.
Yeah.
If you are a person who has pen and paper, you can do that. But
back the first time I did Weight Watchers, that's what we had.
We had like an actual spiral bound diary that we wrote in.
Smartphones weren't a thing, and we wrote down what we ate, and we tracked our points at that point.
Headed back to the apps for a minute, there are so many. We happen to use the Fitbit app because we actually wear Fitbits, so it's a one-stop shop for us.
Yeah, it tracks our activity and our food, what we eat.
Yeah, so there's MyFitnessPal, I Track Bites, Spark People, Lose It, Chronometer, and like I said, the pen and paper. There are many different apps.
Tracking calories can be daunting, or tracking what you're eating if you're not tracking calories can be daunting, and it can create a lot of anxiety. And, getting over that anxiety is a big part of the first step in this.
Getting overwhelmed about counting calories is a choice. And over-analyzing and trying to find the perfect app that is going to change everything, it doesn't really matter which one you use. It's not magic, it's consistency. And
yeah, if you're somebody who's paralyzed by too many choices, just flip a coin or, point at your screen, search for fitness, health tracking apps in your app store and just grab one.
Grab the first one, exactly. And it's not about perfection. It's about tracking data over time. And I know we talked about Gretchen Rubin in the past, talking about we monitor what we measure. I spent the better part of 41 years just, not tracking calories. I did Weight Watchers on and off, but when I felt like I failed, like I had let the system down, I would quit.
Yeah.
And this isn't about being prisoner to some electronic overlord or prisoner to Weight Watchers or MyFitnessPal.
I, for one, welcome our electronic overlords.
It is a tool. It is a tool to track your food choices. It's not you've been bad, you've been good. It's just data. And calories matter. I know not everyone counts calories. There are people who do other plans, intuitive eating, keto, and that kind of thing. For me, counting calories is like having a budget. It is like paying cash for my food each day. When I don't track, it's like using a credit card, and I'm worrying about paying it off with interest at some point, but I'm not really even paying
that bill
attention.
will come due.
And it comes due on the scale. And, some people have asked me, I've been in maintenance basically for the last year. And people have said like, oh, well, it doesn't seem fair to have to track, or, oh, it just seems like so much time. What fair got me was up to 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Like that was the price of my intuitive eating, of my, I should be able to do X, Y, and Z. For me, calories are bumpers on the side to make sure that I stay within a target range. Now, we're not going to talk about how many calories you should have a day. That's probably a whole other episode with many more experts included, but there are many different resources on the internet to talk about what your calorie goal should be. I am eating, I will tell you, much more than I did every other time I've dieted. Before, I would do these starvation,
for sure,
1,100 calorie diets, and I would say using my Fitbit and walking, when I was at 250 pounds, I was eating a little bit over 2,000 calories a day. So I think you can eat a lot more than you think you can based on what really many fitness professionals suggest.
Yes, but we're not going to talk about that.
But we're not going to talk about it. But anyway, so we're not going to go into that. We're just going to talk about the nuts and bolts of how to track. And I'm going to say, first of all, tracking imperfectly, I think, is really important, and not giving up. I gave up on Weight Watchers 20 times, and with each quit, I gained 10 or 15 pounds until I was ready to go back to Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
So this time, when I decided to track calories, I just decided I would do it without judgment, and I would just not stop. And 18 months later, I'd hit my goal weight, and now I've just been, for the last 15 months, just sort of trying to even myself out. But it's so good not to like have to guess about it. It's just,
for sure.
It's data, and it's out there. It's not a shock.
Yeah, and we've talked about this on other episodes, but, math doesn't care what's fair. Your body doesn't care what's fair. The amount of food that you eat is the amount that you eat, and it's going to affect you the same way, whether it's fair or not, that it affects you.
Exactly. So that fear of tracking, of owning your choices, you can go back to the One Weird Trick episode if you want to hear more about all the things we did except for being honest with ourselves. And I think that honesty in tracking is something that has been critical to the change in this journey for me. So being able to, like I said, imperfectly track, I didn't get to 300 pounds because of my cherry tomato habit.
Yeah.
So it's not...
That'd be a lot of cherry tomatoes.
It's not about perfection. It's just about consistency. So, Donald, what would you say might be the first, the easiest place to start with tracking calories?
Well, the easiest place is packaged foods. Anything with a barcode that you buy at the grocery store is pretty easy to track. They all have calories on them. If you have a smartphone, the fitness apps that we mentioned, MyFitnessPal, Fitbit, etc., you can scan the barcodes of these foods, and most of them will turn up. It'll tell you how many calories are in a serving. The one thing you have to really watch out for is the number of servings that are in a package, because some packages are deceiving. Seems like to me that there would be one serving. Like a pint of ice cream to me is one serving. And a lot of pints of ice cream claim they have 4 servings in them. And, I would eat the whole thing.
Well, and there was some frozen lo mein noodle thing that I ate before I started tracking calories, and I was like, oh, it's so satisfying. I've never been more satisfied by a lunch. And then I made the mistake, of actually looking at the calories, and it was 2.5 servings per package, and
boy.
And it was like 400 calories per serving, and I was like, I feel so full. I was like, that's because I didn't look at the small print. So really paying attention to portion size is very helpful. And like Donald said, everything has a barcode, usually except for like produce.
Or vegetable. Well, you said produce. Vegetables are produce.
Your legumes. There are some things that are maybe more complicated, but like don't get bogged down with the complicated. Like, if right now all you can manage is tracking your lean cuisine meals, and your hamburger rolls and stuff like that, everything with the barcode is really simple to account for.
Yeah, and it's easy. What is a little less easy are things that you cook at home. You may have to, you may follow a recipe. You may not even follow a recipe. You may not be used to following a recipe. But MyFitnessPal has a very nice recipe calculator. You put in the ingredients, and it'll figure out what the amount of calories per serving are for you. Yeah,
and I think the big, I joked about the tomatoes right now, like, focus on the big ticket items. If a recipe calls for, a cup of broccoli, like, I don't have a broccoli problem. I have a cheese sauce problem. So
I didn't get to my heaviest by too much broccoli.
Right. So if you want to estimate your broccoli in the app, usually they have, like 5 florets of broccoli or whatever. Estimate it. It's not the problem. But measuring actually your cup of cheese sauce, like, that's where the power is. I realized 1,000 to 1,500 calories of hummus and crackers and butter every night.
Yeah.
Just as my snack before dinner.
Ugh,
it must be butter. My thyroid. So measuring those big ticket items are important. So if you use your food scale, you can measure out how much you're using. Usually they have a zero out feature, which means you can put like a cup or a bowl on top of the scale, hit the 0 button, and then it goes back down to 0. You can load up your peanut butter or your cheese sauce, and it measures it in ounces or grams. Donald, What is the benefit of grams over ounces?
I feel like grams are a little more accurate because they're divided up into smaller units, and a lot of the packaging, a lot of the prepackaged foods come measured in grams.
Yeah, so if, an ounce of cheese, it's sort of like a heaping tablespoon of anything. It's like the grams are just much more detailed. So I didn't use those in my past when I was doing Weight Watchers, but I almost feel like it actually works in my favor now that I'm counting calories. So I enjoy the grams. So,
yeah, I mean, it's technically the same thing, but the grams are just a smaller unit, so it's a little more accurate. And you don't get that sort of in between 6.4
Gray
ounces
area,
and
yeah.
6.5 ounces. Like every gram is a gram.
It's like using inches instead of feet.
Yeah.
Like, it's about that much. So you just get a much more accurate measurement. And that really matters with things like peanut butter, any other butter you can think of.
Mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise, cheese, Cheez-Its, anything heavy fat, heavy carb, high sugar. I think it's really important. So,
yeah, and getting back to recipes, you can weigh out each of your servings and figure out, divide them into equal servings, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, or do your best to estimate, like, all right, I'm going to divide this recipe into 4 servings, and maybe each serving is not weighed exactly right because it's just too inconvenient with your food scale, but the point is that you're going to get close, and you're doing something to measure your calories or your food intake.
And two, if you make lasagna at home and or someone else makes it and you don't know how much is in it, because that does happen. Someone else is the primary cook in the house. You can just go into the app and type in vegetable lasagna, and it will come up with maybe 5 or 6 different vegetable lasagna. What's the plural of lasagna?
Lasagnes.
Lasagnes.
Yeah.
Just pick the middle. Pick whatever is kind of the average. Donald sometimes chooses the high number.
I'll choose the high calorie one or the middle calorie one. I avoid the temptation of choosing the lowest calorie one because I figure rarely am I lucky enough
choosing the low
that
calorie
I'm ingesting the lowest calorie one. But if you pick the middle one, the middle high one, the high one, you're probably pretty safe, and you're going to get close.
Yeah, and it's about the consistency of what you're doing, not the perfection of it. And I think that idea of trying to be perfect is what keeps people from doing it, because they feel, perfectionism, I think, actually is a loophole that we use. Like, well, if I can't do it perfectly, then I'm not going to do it at all. And as revenge, I'm going to have a second slice. And then I'm also going to eat a sleeve of Cheerios. Or no, Cheerios don't come in sleeves. Chips Ahoy, they come in sleeves. So it's that, like, you punish yourself for not being accurate by eating more food. So just do yourself a favor.
Yeah, it's more of that all or nothing, attitude that is so hard to shake. It was so hard for me to shake. The if I can't be perfect, then I shouldn't do anything attitude. And, it's just important to do something and move on or do the best that you can.
Yeah, and I also, one item that I didn't mention as a great tool is just taking a photo in the moment if you can. I have gone out to eat with family, and there are so many people Instagramming food. Obviously, if we were in a fancy restaurant, I wouldn't do it. But we went to
why not?
Welcome to the French Laundry.
Yeah.
Snap, snap. But we went out to a cafe, and I ordered a salad with dressing on the side. It was delicious, and I took a picture of it, but I thought to myself, I remember what I ate. It'll be fine. And then we got home, and I looked at the picture, and I was like, oh, yeah, there was a pretzel roll in there with butter that I also ate that I didn't track. So sometimes photos tell a really terrible story about the truth about what you did. So snap a photo. If you're at a business lunch or something like that and it's not kosher to do that, write it down. Make it look like you're taking copious notes about exciting business opportunities. But don't worry about the perfection of it. Just put something in as a bookmark. Put something in just to kind of keep a placeholder and move forward to the next day.
And one of the hardest parts of this is tracking things out when you're out at restaurants. we don't eat out nearly as much as we used to, and I think that's one of the keys to our weight loss success was greatly reducing the number of meals that we had out. But they still happen, and we still like to do it. But some of the tips we've already given about just go into the app, take the highest calorie option, the medium calorie option, take a photo, and guesstimate. Also, a lot of chain restaurants have calories on their website, and some non-chain restaurants even have them on their menus.
You know how it's Halloween time and there's spooky stories. I feel like as an adult, reading just the calories on a Cheesecake Factory menu or a Yard House menu is terrifying. Like, these are not single serving portions. And knowing that if you're going to a chain restaurant, and even if you're going to a restaurant that is not a chain restaurant, you can probably expect to be using 600 to 800 calories on whatever lunch you're getting.
Yeah.
And on a dinner entree, probably 900 to 2,000 calories, depending on the
and try and be honest with yourself, understanding that, what we've said about perfection, just because you're eating one meal out, don't throw away the rest of the day.
Well, and I had looked on the P.F. Chang Chinese restaurant website, and I was looking for a healthy option. Shrimp is healthy.
Oh, yeah.
I talked about this on another episode.
Yeah.
Shrimp is 1 gram per calorie. So you get a nice big bunch of shrimp. That's like 100 grams, 100 calories. That's a low-calorie option. They had a dish called, cool shrimp with delightful melon.
That sounds great.
It was 1,400 calories.
Yeah.
I don't know where they got the calories. I think they just sprinkled them on somehow. But
they're soaking that shrimp in something.
But it sounded cool, refreshing melon. It's basically, I'm losing weight just looking at it. So, realizing that flavor comes at a high price. So estimating for out, I think, is a helpful tool. Avoiding, I know this is off subject, but avoid the bread basket and let me try that. And do you want the extra double size on things? It's all going to add up. Just stick to the meal.
But if you do have those things, weigh it, measure it, track it. I know maybe you can't weigh it at a restaurant, but do your best.
Yeah, and Donald talked to you. Speaking of tracking, you also pre-track. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? This is some PhD level activity.
Yeah, if you're just starting, maybe don't try this. I didn't do this till I was well along my adventure, but I have been called extreme for doing this, but
too hot for TV.
when I go to work on the weekends, I do some food prep. I do grocery shopping. During the week, I bring a cooler bag with food to work. And in the morning, I pre-track everything that goes into that bag. Basically, the bag gets me through till dinner time. And I put all the calories into my Fitbit app ahead of time. And then I know I can eat everything in that bag before dinner. And I know exactly how many calories I'm going to have.
Well, and it's kind of you feel like you're kind of being... indulgent because you've already tracked it. So when you actually eat it, you're like, it's free.
Yeah.
Because you already paid in advance. It's paying for a trip before you take it.
And it takes the pressure off of me during the day to try and remember oh wait, what did I just have? Did I have a yogurt earlier or was that yesterday?
Well, and going back, I remember the first week that I tracked when I was on this last time journey, and every ounce of my body was don't do it, it's hard, it's not it's not fair.
It feels like homework at first.
And you know what, now the first week when you're populating the food that you're eating, I would probably hazard a guess that you're eating the same 2 or 3 breakfasts a week, you're having the same 2 or 3 lunches.
Yeah,
that's not that complicated. If you're like
me, you don't have a lot of variety. You're eating a lot of the same things over and over again.
Yeah, so the great part about the apps that we use, Fitbit keeps a running tab of my most recent foods, so like the top 25 or 30 things that I have eaten most recently. And then it also has my favorite foods, so the things I eat most frequently. So yogurt, ham, Swiss cheese, my half and half that I have, the
and it keeps
top.
those things up front, so I can just select them automatically. And then you can also designate favorite foods, like a My Foods tab that you can just go to if there's things that aren't showing up on there that you want to be able to add all the time.
So it takes me, I think at this point, maybe 4 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Maybe if I'm eating something like complicated and off menu that I usually don't have. But it's so much better than weighing 100 pounds more than I do right now. Like, it is really easy. It takes the guesswork out. And on times, like, we've gone away on vacation, and I have had really indulgent days, and I have not tracked. But what I do track is I just put in just 3,000 calories. I just say, like, ate all the food. 3,000 calories. Went to Chicago.
Ate all the food.
I have all the food as one of my things.
I know. It's
I'll post
funny.
It on Instagram.
It's still funny.
But like, you go to Chicago for the weekend and you're not tracking and you're having a good time. It doesn't mean you start again January 1st. It means that you just start like when you get back. So I put in 3,000 calories a day. It sort of tells me those are the days that I was overindulgent, and I just own it and move forward. It's not about those occasional times when you're off track or when you're out of town or you have family in town, but it just keeps it honest. And I think I've said this before, there are no cheat days. Like, you're not the Hamburglar. There's no robbing. You're not like, the goose that laid the golden egg, like climbing Jack's beanstalk.
Yeah, what are you cheating on? Like, yourself? I mean, you're just eating food. You're a person eating food.
Yeah, and there's no cheating. It's not good or bad. Food is food. There are, I prefer to call them indulgences, or just all the food, which is fine. But putting a value judgment on yourself and having shame around, going to a Dodger game and eating maybe ice cream served in a baseball hat, which has happened to me before.
It's so much better in a baseball hat.
Yeah,
Why
maybe.
Is that?
Do you think that, I don't know, who can you think of? It was very classy. Do you think the Queen of England eats out of baseball hats? I'm going to say she doesn't, probably.
Not.
Coco
She's
Chanel.
missing out.
Coco Chanel is not eating out of buckets and all-you-can-eat things. So just owning your choices, I think, is what we're trying to say. Doing it imperfectly and being willing to do the best that you can and see what happens with the data.
Yeah, and over time, it becomes second nature. I mean, it's just something that we do. It doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like homework. It's just something that is now part of our daily routine. It is a lifelong, sustainable habit that we have built up over time.
But Donald, you're at goal, so shouldn't you just be able to go back and do whatever you want now?
Maybe I should be able to, but no, that is not how it works.
It is not how it works. And I think I used to think of it as a short-term solution. But as with anything in our lives, our bank accounts, our credit card statements, our mortgage payments, if we don't pay attention, if we go loosey-goosey, as some might say, we're not going to make progress. We're going to make bigger and more frequent mistakes. We're going to go out and enjoy more indulgences and assume that the shrimp surprise is 5 calories instead of surprise.
Turns out the surprise
1,500 calories. So it's just about that consistency, and it is worth the price. We pay a price for the indulgences that we make. We pay a price for not tracking. And whether you're taking a photo of your food, whether you're planning it in advance, or you're tracking it after you've eaten it, that is a much more sustainable price to pay than to just guess at why you're not losing weight.
Yeah, and to find yourself at a much heavier weight than where you want to be.
Well, and in the end, it's calories in and calories out. If you eat more calories than you burn, you gain weight. If you eat and burn the same amount of calories, you stay the same weight. If you eat fewer calories than you burn, you lose weight. Like, there are three choices. So whatever you're doing right now, tracking your weight over time, tracking your calories over time, it tells you a story. It tells you a story about your choices. And it is very clear to me right now, based on my pancake enthusiast summer, that I had a lot of 3,000 calorie days. And guess what? I was up at my highest weight since last summer when I enjoyed many indulgences. I have been tracking my calories, and I am down at my lowest weight since Christmas. So it feels really good to have the data, know why the scale is moving. It is not a miracle. It is not a wonder. It is not a surprise. It's the data. The data is telling the story of my choices.
And it's a way, if you don't track anything, then how are you going to know what's working and what isn't?
I was almost going to say track is whack, but it's not. Like, it's the opposite of
It's the opposite.
It is the opposite of it.
Well, I think that's all we have to say on that for now.
I think so.
I think it's time now for the product of the week.
Pow!
Pow!
So we are going to take you to the fine country of France.
Oh. Ooh la la.
For I wish we had like a Parisian song in the background, but I don't think we have rights to those. So we are going to suggest to our fine listening audience a demi-tasse spoon.
Demi-tasse spoon?
Ooh
What is
la
that?
la. So spoons come in many sizes. There is a tablespoon, a teaspoon.
Are you just going to name all the sizes?
I'm just naming spoons. Demi-tasse means smaller than you think. No. No.
They're also called coffee spoons. They're
Yeah.
basically little tiny spoons.
Little tiny, like an American doll might have.
And you can get a set of 12 of them for like $8 on Amazon.
Yeah, or if you go, most of the grocery stores that we go to have a little home goods section where they sell, plates and forks and knives. And they're just like the really tiny small, they're probably like as long as your pointer finger, small spoons. And the reason that they are so amazing is that you eat smaller bites and are able to enjoy a food longer than if you had a giant shovel.
Yeah, it sort of forces you into making your food last longer. And psychologically, at least for me, it makes me feel like I'm getting more food.
Yeah, so when I have Halo Top, when I have yogurt, when I have anything that I want to savor, I use these really small spoons. And they make the portion last longer. They help me savor it. Which helps me stay fuller longer, because I'm not, before, if I used a giant tablespoon, it would just be gone in 4 bites and gone. So it seems...
I used to use a garden shovel.
It seems insignificant, but in the last 3 years, I have paid close attention to using much smaller plates, much smaller bowls, and using smaller spoons to eat my food. I think I use normal forks. Forks aren't my issue. Small forks are not what I do. But using a spoon for desserts has really helped me. Using it for yogurt has helped me. And all these little sort of tools and tricks all build up. They all build up. All of it is mindset. You can track calories, and we've talked a lot about the mindset of the journey, and knowing that every little bit adds up, and owning your choices matters, making it easier for yourself to do something that is helpful for yourself. Knowing what works, knowing what doesn't work. So for me, all these tools add up to a plan that makes me feel satisfied.
Yeah, and speaking of things that are going to help you, listening to this podcast is one of them.
They just did it.
We Only Look Thin, and you can find us on Facebook.
Or on Instagram, I will post a picture of what spoons look like.
Yeah.
I actually have done that before, but I'll post it again.
I will put a link in the show notes to some spoons you can buy on Amazon. And you can also, we tweet occasionally at We Only Look Thin.
Let's see, Facebook and Instagram, you can send us an email. How do you use spoons? let us know at
If you have any weighing and measuring tips and tricks, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so you can email us at weonlylookthin.com. And there is so much more to cover on the topic of calories, but hopefully this has given you an overview of how we make it work for us.
And if we've done something that said something that might help you, please go to iTunes and rate and review us. We would really appreciate it. A 5-star review would be great, but we also would enjoy some constructive criticism.
I don't like criticism, but you read the comments. I'll just organize my spoons.
All right, save your criticism for emails. You can email us at weonlylookthin@gmail.com.
If you've made it this long, you obviously enjoy us. So thank you so much for listening, and we just love doing this so much and are just so grateful to... I don't know, 3 years ago, I don't think we could have inspired people to buy spoons. We're telling people to buy spoons. They're going to go buy spoons. So if you are inspired to buy spoons, if you are inspired to buy French-sounding spoons...
Oh, yeah. Ooh la la.
Ooh la la. Remember, whatever continent you're on, that Donald and I are...
An inspiration.
Asian.
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.